Hey, folks. Sometimes I get something stuck in my head, and one of the things that I had stuck in my head is I wanted to create something that felt vaguely like Righteous Fire in Last Epoch, and I am doing that with Warpath converted to fire. This is not the first time I have tried to do this. I had a totally different character that I made another video on that was a Forge Guard with a manifest armor minion that acted as a portable flamethrower that followed me around while I was spinning. And that build just kind of fell apart once I hit Empowered Monoliths. So I started another character, and it is a Paladin. And I am now in Empowered Monoliths, and it is still continuing to function. So we're gonna run a quick monolith and then talk about it. Um, so much the same playstyle. I just spin around and light things on fire, and they die. And if they're not dying, I now drop a judgment, and that helps to make them die. And then, for the most part, things largely catch on fire and die on their own, and I have quite a bit of generic leech that is also taking into account my fire damage over time, so that ends up making me fairly sturdy. So I'm just going to orbit the gate and light everything on fire and wait for it to die, because that's what I do. And if anything ends up being super tanky, then I will hit Volatile Reversal and also Holy Symbol at the same time and drop a Judgment, and it dies pretty quickly. And I think that's probably the last one. Yeah. Okay. So it's a pretty chill mapping style. So let's go back to the ready room and talk about it a bit. So like I've tried a bunch of different versions of this um, to try and make this idea work pretty well. And more importantly, like I really like Firestarter's torch, and I wanted to keep using it. So this is all just kind of an excuse to keep using it. I have picked up a couple of 3LP versions, and this is the best slam that I've ended up getting. So the idea was built entirely around, okay, I'm not going to crit, I'm just going to light things on fire, and they're going to die. So what can I do to help buff that? So in Warpath, I go down the Path of Fire, Earth Scorcher area, where I'm adding on penetration and additional bleed chance, which gets converted into ignite chance. And then also up here, since I'm using a scepter, I'm stacking 3 points into Cyclone of War, which gives me another plus 60 fire penetration, which added to the 45 means I have over 100% fire penetration with this attack. Buffing its speed, the 3 points that make it free. I put one into the block chance, but I don't know that it's actually doing anything. So I may pull that out and put it into Iron Reach to buff its area. And something I was playing with this time is because whenever I cast Judgment, it technically stops me spinning. So I put a point into Giant Splitter, which causes me to do a big AoE attack whenever I stop. So, I don't know. I may play with that some more. The big reason why I went Paladin was for Holy Aura, which is a passive Diablo Paladin Crusader buff thing that increases what it does whenever you cast it, but also it just gives you passive fire damage and flame burst, and so you know, anytime I use it, I can, you know, do this flame burst thing. And then, you know, it gives me passive attack speed. So it's a generally useful item that I can throw on the build. Similarly, I've got Volatile Reversal, which is a let's kill it faster button. So I drop the rift at either end and then go into make the enemy take more damage, and also that the Void Rift does more damage while at the same time giving me more attack speed and movement speed. So, you know, in theory, yeah, all that's good stuff. Sigils of Hope is another kind of generic thing, and I never cast this. If I was more try-hard about the build, I would be pre-casting this, but mostly it's just when I have sigils active, I get some buffs. And it's most of the time when I'm killing lots of things in a map, I have buffs. And then the other new thing that I've been playing with is Judgment. And, you know, I have buffed the amount of Fire Pen and Ignite it has, and the consecrated damage, and also hits against ignited enemies, since I'm always igniting things, and Fervent Impact to give me more crit against ignited enemies. So my Judgment itself isn't dealing just an absolute ton of damage, but also, in addition to everything else I'm doing, it's just more layers of damage to help kill things faster. So, as far as my talents, I am going into a lot of the things that give me extra fire damage. You know, extra flat damage, extra fire damage, extra healing effectiveness, which is what scales Judgment. So yeah, and then just some survival. Over into Void Knight, I've been picking up some additional void resistance because the shield I'm using right now is largely fixing my void resistances. So at some point I'll take more points here, which will hopefully allow me to swap out what I'm doing. And at some point I want to go far enough into Forge Guard to pick up this next melee attack fire damage thing, which in theory I think will work, but if not, I'll drop it and try something else. As far as gearing goes, so obviously I've got my Firestarter's torch. That's what started this madness. I am using a 3 LP Bleeding Heart that I slammed some survival onto, mostly to counteract the less regen on this, and also give me just generic leech. So 8.3 is pretty high. I think it's 9% is the highest you can get on one of these. So it ends up just giving me a way to be constantly leeching some health off things. And it's not specific to melee or to, you know, spell damage or to damage over time or anything like that. It's just generic leech. Like I said, I'm using the shield in part because this was a decent leveling shield, because I got a 3 Moenia Mintus, 3 LP, and threw some stats on it for survival, and it's got a lot of void resistance right now, and I'm hoping to not need that at some point. Sunwreath is a really good ring for what I'm trying to do. Even though I don't do anything with Flame Reave, it just has a lot of fire damage over time and ignite chance and melee fire damage. So in theory, I want to find better versions of these rings and keep trying to make a better legendary, because the one I have grabbed the things I didn't want off of the ring that I consumed. Would really like to find a better code of the Erased Sentinel that actually has stats that I care about. So um, that's something I hope for. Um, I'm also going to be farming up Fiery Dragon shoes. That in theory I can stack some stuff on. Because these are just really good generic shoes for this build. Um, they've got all the stats that I want, and I've got enough reduction to bonus damage taken that the 14% chance to receive a critical isn't that bad. The gloves are not good. Not really. Like, mostly I am wearing them because they have some poison resistance, some health, and 11.5% of melee damage leeches health, which is a T7 melee leech. These will probably get replaced as soon as I get something better. Liath's Signet is largely just a ring to fix resistances if you're a channeling build, because you get 75% to all elemental resistances while you're channeling, and as you know, Warpath, you're always channeling. So in theory, at some point I will probably replace this. Really good belt. Like, it's going to be hard for me to replace this belt. It's got some health on it. It's got an additional potion slot. It's got fire damage, and it's got T7 physical resistance. So this belt is almost single-handedly fixing my physical resistances. The real things you're looking for a build like this are Celarum plates, the helmet, and the chest. And I have gotten a bunch of these since I've tried this build multiple times, and at some point I would love to find a T7 with +4 to Warpath. Right now, +3, which is a T6 roll, is really good. So I've got vitality and health regen. So this is just a lot of generic survival on my chest piece that's also giving me 40% increased fire damage, which is really a low roll. At some point, like in a perfect world, I would find one that gives me closer to the max roll of 80 on the chest in the implicits, but it'll deal. Great Helm is a better roll because 75 is the max and I got a 58, and 75 is the max for endurance threshold and I got a 69. Mostly this is just, it has some survival on it, not a ton, but more fire, more ignite. Because honestly, right now I could use more ignite. So I've got a bunch of these idols that give me ignite chance on hit and also shred armor with fire. So more ignite would be good. So if I can swap those out for better ones. Chance to bleed on high health, that's getting converted to ignite chance. And I don't know that the Warpath area is really that good, so I may swap those out. And then these are, armor and fire damage and armor and fire damage, and I should probably swap those out for health. But this is where we're at. This build as a whole is, I don't know, like I started it earlier this week, so it's a pretty brand new build. The one thing that I am going to do at some point, and this will involve me having to farm for it, is I'm looking for a version of this shield with some LP on it that I can drop some statistics on it. And once I no longer need the void resistance, I will switch over to the shield because it does everything that I want it to do. And I used this on the previous version, but right now I want void resistance more than, because like if I swap this out right now, I dropped to 44% void and everything seems to do void. So I don't really want to drop there. But anyway, that's that's where we're at with this build. And I have, I don't know, like almost 700% fire damage, close to 200% ignite, quite a bit of fire penetration. So this feels like the viable build version of the build I was trying to build. Anyway, I'll post a build planner in the comments, but this works pretty well. I'm very happy with this. I will continue to tweak it, and right now it mostly just needs additional levels because, you know, right now I'm 80, so I have a bit of room to grow into speccing it out. But anyway, like for the most part, like this is the build I was really wanting to build, and it took me starting a brand new character. I thought Forge Guard was the way to go, but it is not. And mostly the reason why is Paladin is the only one that gets Holy Aura. Holy Aura is giving me all of those passive benefits, and also deep down in the Paladin tree, there's like a lot of percentage fire damage. So I think this is the way to go, because like there's this node that you can get before the midway point, but then there's generic damage while also giving you a bunch of other benefits, and generic fire damage while giving you move speed. So this feels like Paladin is the way to build this. Anyway, I am glad I stuck with this. I'm glad I tried 3 different builds before finally landing on this one, but it works. I like it a lot. It's fun to play. It's really chill to level, especially if you can get a torch. And then it's viable so far in early Empowered Monoliths. I've not had a chance to push corruption on this or anything, but survival's good. General damage is pretty good, so I think it's going to be fine. Anyway, I'll talk to you later when I record the next one of these dumb videos. Bye.